Welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Babes in Toyland. This says it's from 1961. I look at IMDb and it says 1960, so it's early 60s, one way or the other. This was not what I expected. I knew that it was going to be a musical, and I knew that Annette Funicello was in it. She's if you don't already know, Disney folks. Hardcore Disney people know who she is because she's the queen of the Musketeers. She was one of the originals, I think, back in 1955 or so. And back then she was just a kid. Here she's blossomed into adulthood, and she's just adorably cute and gorgeous. But she's making use of her singing chops alongside, what's his name? Tommy Sands. They play the two main characters in a very fairy tale world. The entire story is introduced by Mother Goose, who is holding a goose who's actually a puppet, a goose named Sylvester. Just a little note, Mother Goose is not a very good puppeteer. That's just my personal opinion, because it's a man's voice that's coming through, and it's obviously not her, but she's moving the mouth the best way she can with the words. And anyway, that's my little nitpick. But for the most part, we have nearly everything is a musical number. There's except for about midway through the film, where it becomes very much vaudevillian interaction, thanks mainly in part to old vaudeville actor Ed Wynn. Yeah, he's been everything from he's been a few things, everything from the Twilight Zone to Barry Poppins. He's Uncle Albert, and so you'd recognize him from a few different things. But here, I think he steals the show. He is one of the best things in this thing, and he doesn't have a musical number though. He's the toy maker in a movie called Babes in Toyland. By the way, the Toyland part of it doesn't even come into play until about halfway through the movie. I was completely confused by that until it actually happened. It's almost like it's two separate movies. The first part deals with these two trying to get hitched, but a guy named Barnaby, who's just the cliche old school twirling mustache, big top hat, greasy hair kind of older gentleman who's trying to, he'd normally be tying her to the railroad tracks in an old black and white silent film. In this case, he does a big song and dance with his minions, who are basically 2/3 Three Stooges. I think there's a Moe Curly combination in one, and the other one is a mute Moe Curly Larry, a mute Larry. Or which one? None of them were mute. I'm thinking of the Marx Brothers too. It's a really weird mixture, Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges mixed into two guys, and they do a lot of physical comedy. A lot of this is also it's a live action movie, but it's meant almost to look animated in a sense. There's animated parts, sort of overlays, dollar signs flowing up out of the bad guy's coffers to show how much he loves money, and if they conk somebody in the head with a hammer, there's animated bits like that. There's even stop motion animation towards the end of the film in a big toy army that's assembled. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. The villain, by the way, is Ray Bolger. And if you don't know that name, you would certainly recognize his most famous role as the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. So, if you want to see the Scarecrow in a very different role, but no less entertaining, he makes a great bad guy. And yes, it's all very cartoonish in how they act. He makes for a fun bad guy. And poor Annette, she plays Mary Quite Contrary from one of the little fairy tales we all know, little nursery rhymes and things like that. There's a ton of also other nursery rhyme characters throughout this. little town, which is completely comprised on a stage. There's no actual outdoor shooting or anything else. This is all on a sound stage, all pretty much within a central, probably one stage. They just flip things around. And they don't hide that. They don't hide that. They don't pretend that it's like they're trying to make it outdoorsy. It's very much meant for a stage production. This is an adaptation of a stage production. So it's still in that weird phase where they felt like they had to make movies still exactly like they made stage plays and musicals. So it's like it wouldn't translate or something. Like if they made it too real, it would be, I don't know. It's at least in the sense of a musical like this. It's meant to be lighthearted. It's meant to be goofy, and it's very silly. So yeah, it's got a lot of good fun. Oh, and speaking of other characters that you might recognize, basically both the brothers from Old Yeller, which I saw a few weeks ago, both the brothers from Old Yeller are in this movie. The older one plays the toy maker's assistant, who makes all the great inventions, but gets all the praise until the toy maker screws it up, and then he gets all the blame. And the little brother from Old Yeller is basically, I think, I don't know, one of the kids in the town. And I think his other brother, who his real life brother, who looks just like him, is also in this movie. So it's Kenneth something or other. I'm sure I could find it. Kenneth Cochran. Kenneth Cochran. Kevin Cochran. I suck. Sorry. But his older brother is Tommy Kirk. So, yes, thank you, IMDb, for all my details. But Edwin, Annette Funicello, by the way, Annette Funicello in the credits at the very beginning, she's just listed as Annette because, you know what, it's Disney. She's a Disney princess in her own right from her time in the Mickey Mouse Club, and you just had to list her as Annette. She didn't even need a very complicated Italian last name. So, there you go. Yeah, so lots of numbers, lots of musicals, lots of musical numbers, lots of dancing. The dancing is not anything that's kind of over the top or wild, or it's very chaste, it's very kid friendly. This movie is probably entertaining to people, older than me usually, and also little kids who are probably maybe no more than 5 and have not been sucked into video games. They might find this entertaining. It's like very colorful. It's very fun. It's very energetic. They'll see a bunch of other little kids they recognize. They'll recognize that other kids are in this. It could be them, and in this magical world where even the trees sing and dance and rhyme. So yes, they're singing and dancing trees, not Ents from like Lord of the Rings or anything, but yeah. They were part of the separation that cuts the movie in two between the first half and the second half. Yeah, it's a fun little movie. If you ignore some of the gypsy stereotyping that happens about halfway through, and yeah, it's the Romani people, probably the better term, but back then, hey, everybody, and gypsies, they're all singing and dancing, and they leap very tall, and they play tambourines, and they're very colorful. So that's the only weird part of this. Again, among a lot of the films on here, they show that these are reflections of their time. This doesn't have the disclaimer in front of it, because I guess we haven't had a whole lot of talk about the term gypsy in modern days, which is kind of offensive to the Romani people now. Or has always been, but we just didn't recognize it. I don't know. I'm not going to get political on this, but I've said enough. I think it's time for picking out a new show or movie. By the way, yeah, if you get a chance, my summary to summarize all this, it was good fun. I was surprised that how much I liked it. It was neat. So it's maybe not my favorite film in the world. I don't know if I'll go back and watch it again and again. But if you said, hey, let's watch this, I think you'd have a lot of interest. People just sort of, I don't know, ironically watching it maybe. And also some people who genuinely would enjoy just seeing this cast perform. Again, especially Ray Bolger and Edwin, I think he feels like he ad-lib some of his lines, and he was just that funny. I'll say, hey, this is Mr. Sulu. So yeah, all right, it's time to pick a new number. And here we go. 227. Again, I've been gun shy from these last few days because we keep getting numbers that we've already had before, and I just have this feeling that we've done 227 already. I don't understand. There's 768 numbers to choose from. Why is it choosing the same ones over and over again? Doesn't make sense. 227. Ha! Okay, I knew this was close to another number. We didn't have this one yet, but it is one of the classics and related to one movie we've already watched. 227 is Herbie Goes Bananas. 227, Herbie Goes Bananas. So, all right, that's our next one. Herbie Goes Bananas on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you tomorrow.